Who are the 10 best players in NBA history? Not the 10 greatest, not the ones with the most rings, the most aura, the longest careers, the most longevity. I'm talking about the 10 players with the highest peak, the 10 players in NBA history that reached the highest level of basketball, the 10 best players in NBA history. And let me just be very clear on the criteria. As I said before, this is not about rings. This is not about how long they did it. This is not about their entire career. The way that I'm doing this is that I'm looking at all these players' 3-year peaks, the best 3 years of their career where they won a ring, and I'm judging that against the other players. How high of a peak did they reach when they were in their prime at their highest level? That's what I'm looking at. Now, just outside the list at number 11, I have Magic Johnson, and I know everyone's gonna be pissed off about that. They're gonna be like, how is that possible? He has to be a top 10 player ever. But there are two main factors why I say this. The first one is that I have to give an 80s tax. Yes, in the 80s, the Lakers and Celtics were the two best teams in the NBA. They both were elite. Magic and Larry Bird, they changed the game. They were great players. But we need to factor in that during the 80s, those two teams were clearly the best teams in the league. They finished top 3 in their conference almost every year. They had tons of elite players, 4 to 5 Hall of Famers on each team. I mean, you look at the Celtics and they had Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Bill Walton. I mean, they were a stacked roster. And similarly, the Lakers had Kareem, they had James Worthy, Norm Nixon, Michael Cooper, AC Green. They had a ton of great players on each team. And as I said before, when I'm judging this, it's about impact. It's about how big of an impact did one player have on their entire team? What burden could that one player take on and still carry their team to victory? And in my opinion, these two teams in the 80s, the Celtics and Lakers, they were such good teams as a whole that I feel like it's hard to judge Bird and Magic against these other players because their rosters were just better than some of these other rosters. And Magic's 3-year peak for me was from 1987 and 1989. He won 2 MVPs, he won a finals MVP, he won 2 titles. He was great. During that time, in the regular season, he averaged 22 points, 12 assists, 2 steals, and 7 rebounds per game. And same thing in the playoffs. He averaged 20 points a game, 12 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. He was elite. And another reason that I'm a little lower on Magic is that his scoring was just not at the level of some of these other players. He still scored a lot. He scored 20 points a game. That's good. And also he was passing so much, getting so many assists that he was generating a ton of points for his team. But individually, he was just not the level of scorer as some of these other guys that we're going to mention ahead, because by himself, he wasn't able to score at that level. Yes, he was able to facilitate, pass, do all those things, and he generated a ton of points. But his mid-range game, his 3-point shooting, his ability to score off the dribble, all those things, it just wasn't at the level of some of these other players. Now at number 10, we have Larry Bird. And as I said before, part of the reason that he's this low, even though he played at an elite level during this time frame, was just because of how good his team was. He had 4 to 5 elite Hall of Fame teammates. So that's what I hold against him. But as an individual player, this is one of the best 3-year primes that we've ever seen. And his 3-year prime is obviously from 1984 to 1986. He won 3 straight MVPs. He averaged 26 points a game, 7 assists, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block. He was on the all defensive team. He was all NBA first team every year. I mean, he was an elite player. And not only that, he shot over 50% from the field, almost 40% from 3, 39.2%. And he was basically a 90% free throw shooter. So he was basically a 50, 40, 90 player during that span. That's crazy. And during that span, the Celtics won 2 titles. The 1986 Celtics were one of the best teams ever, and he won the finals MVP on that team. He had 2 finals MVPs. And just like the regular season, during the span, he averaged 27 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. He was elite. He was super efficient. He could score at all 3 levels. He was a great passer. He was a great defender. And that's why I say he's a little above Magic. As an individual player, he was just a little more impactful. He was a better scorer. He was still a good passer. He was a better defender. I just think his peak was a little higher. Now at number 9, I have Tim Duncan, and everyone knows him as the big fundamental, consistent, longevity, all that kind of stuff. But his peak from 2001 to 2003, it was elite. During the span in the regular season, he averaged 24 points, 13 rebounds, almost 4 assists, 1 steal, and almost 3 blocks per game. He won back-to-back MVPs in 2002 and 2003. He was top 2 in MVP voting every single year. He was one of the best defensive players in the league. He was first team all defense every year, 3rd in defensive player of the year in 2001. He was 4th in 2003. I mean, he was one of the best two-way players in the league at this time. And in the playoffs, he was even better. He averaged 25 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks per game. And some people are going to say, oh, well, he only won 1 championship. He didn't beat the Lakers in 2001. He wasn't able to beat them in 2002. But the thing is, when you look at his team, the Lakers were just a better team. They had Shaq and Kobe, and the Spurs, it was mainly Tim Duncan. But once the Spurs got Manu, once Tony Parker took the next step, once he finally got some help, they beat the Lakers in 2003. And when you look at that team, he was clearly the guy. In the playoffs, he averaged 25 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks per game. The second leading scorer was Tony Parker at 15 points per game. He had no all-star teammates, no all-NBA teammates. He was the guy. And in that series against the Lakers in 2003, he averaged 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists against Shaq. He was super dominant, and he was the only truly elite player on his team. He was clearly the number 1 option. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, Tim Duncan, he was clearly the guy on his team, clearly the number 1 option. so much better than anyone else on his team, whereas Magic and Bird, yes, they were clearly the number one option, but they still had a ton of elite teammates, all-star, all-NBA, Hall of Fame teammates, so that's why I give guys like Tim Duncan the edge. They didn't have as much help, but they still were able to produce and win. Now at number 8, I have Steph Curry, and this is pretty self-explanatory. This is one of the best offensive peaks that we've ever seen. It's from 2015 to 2017. He was phenomenal. He averaged 26 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals per game. He did this on 49% shooting, 44% from 3, over 60% effective field goal percentage. This was just peak offense. He was elite off the ball. He was elite on the ball. This was his peak of shooting. He shot 10, 11 threes per game at 44%. That's absurd. And this Warriors team was the best team ever. From 2015 to 2017, they won 67 games, then 73 games, then 67 games. Steph won 2 MVPs. The Warriors won 2 championships. They were 1 game away from winning 3 straight. So even though this is one of the best offensive peaks ever, probably top 2 to 3 ever, I gotta hold it against him that his defense wasn't elite. They lost in 2016. He didn't have a finals MVP, even though he should have. So that's the reason it's not a little higher. It's still super high, 8th all time, but that's the reason it's 8th. Now at number 7, I have Kevin Durant, and everyone's gonna be like, why is he above Steph? How is Steph not above him? Kevin Durant at his peak from 2017 to 2019 in Golden State, he was not only the best player on the Warriors, you could argue that he was up there with LeBron. He was elite. And you could argue that Steph was the more important player to the Warriors and the more key central piece. But in terms of peak ceiling raising, who's the best player on the team, it was Kevin Durant. In the regular season, he wasn't astronomical. He only averaged 26 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists per game, 1 steal, and 1.5 blocks. But his efficiency was absurd. He shot 52%, 38% from 3, almost 90% from the free throw line. He was basically a 50-40-90 player, and he's 7 foot. But the reason he's 7th isn't the regular season, it's the playoffs. In the playoffs, he averaged 29.6 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block per game on 51% shooting, 40% from 3, 90% from the line, an effective field goal percentage of 58%. He was one of the most dynamic and elite scorers that we've ever seen. To think that a guy who's 6'11", can dribble, can pull up from anywhere, is shifty, can shoot from anywhere, I mean, it was just absolutely unstoppable. That Cavs team in 2017 was very good. They were one of the best offenses in playoff history, but they had absolutely no shot because Kevin Durant was playing at an absurd level. He was averaging 33, 34 points per game, just dominating them, playing elite defense. He was insane. And I want to be clear, Steph was more important to the Warriors and they needed him more. But in terms of peak, who played at a higher level at their apex, it was Kevin Durant. I mean, he's a foot taller. He can get his shot from anywhere. He was just as efficient. He was a better defender. It was close, obviously, but I got to give the edge to KD. Like, during this time, he was one of the best players ever. At number 6, I have Kobe Bryant from 2008 to 2010, and you could argue that his peak was from 2005, 2006, 2007, when he was putting up 35 points per game. But this is his peak when he was winning rings. He made it to 3 straight finals. He won 2 finals MVPs. He was still putting up elite numbers. He was putting up 27 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, half a block per game. And you could say that his efficiency wasn't great. He only shot 46%. He only had an effective field goal percentage of 50%. But we need to factor in that during this era, the NBA was super inefficient. And when you look at the roster that he had, the burden that he had, the efficiency, you can kind of look over it a little bit. And you also need to factor in that during the playoffs, he literally got better. He was averaging 30 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block per game, and his efficiency went up. He shot 46%, 35% from 3. He had an effective field goal percentage over 50%, still a good free throw shooter. And going back to my main point earlier about carrying a burden, being clearly the guy on your team, I'm not saying that he didn't have good teammates. Pau Gasol was an elite player, averaging 20 and 10 in the playoffs. He had Ron Artest, he had Trevor Ariza, Derek Fisher, Lamar Odom, a bunch of solid players, good defenders. I mean, this was a good team. Kobe was clearly the guy. He was the main scorer. Every team was locked in on him. He was clearly the guy. And the fact that he was able to lead that team to 3 straight finals, win 2 championships, 2 finals MVPs, beat that Celtics team, that's why he's number 6. At number 5, I have the most underrated player in NBA history, Hakeem Olajuwon. This guy is so disrespected. He's never talked about, and I don't really get it. I don't know if it's because MJ was the main guy during the 90s or there was a ton of good centers in the 90s, but this guy was special, especially at his peak. From 1993 to 1995, this guy averaged 27 points per game, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks per game. In an era with elite centers, David Robinson, Karl Malone, Shaq, Patrick Ewing, all these great bigs, he was the number 1 guy. And not only was he one of the best offensive players in the league, but this guy was the best defender in the entire league. He won back-to-back defensive players in the years in 1993 and 1994. This guy was averaging 4 blocks per game. 4. He won the MVP in 1994. He was first team All-NBA every year. He was an all-defense player. I mean, When you look at a two-way player, this is the guy. But the reason he's 5th all time isn't because of the regular season, it's because of the playoffs. In the playoffs, he was averaging 30 points per game, 11 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 4 blocks per game. Again, elite on offense, elite on defense. But even more important is that these two rings, these two back-to-back finals MVPs in 1994 and 1995, those two rings are two of the most impressive individual rings in NBA history. They were absurd. In 1994, the Rockets won 58 games and they won the title, but we need to remember that they did not have a single all-star player on their team besides Hakeem, no other all-NBA players, no teammate averaged more than 14 points per game in the regular season or 13 points per game in the playoffs. Hakeem was so clearly the number one option. And in that playoff run, he beat Charles Barkley, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing. He was doing this against elite players when he was clearly only the real elite option on his team. He carried this team. And as impressive as that was, you can argue that his 1995 finals run was even better. He averaged 33 points per game in the playoffs, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, a steal, 5 assists. He was elite, but he won the championship on a team that only won 47 regular season games. That's one of the fewest ever. They were a 6th seed. That is the lowest seed ever to win a title, and no other team seeded 5th or lower has ever won the title. That's the only one. And yes, they got Clyde Drexler, so he had another Hall of Fame teammate. Because they only won 47 games in the regular season, they had to face in round 1 the 60-win Karl Malone, John Stockton Jazz. That's an elite team to face in round 1, and they beat them. Then in round 2, they beat the 59-win Suns with Charles Barkley, Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley. Then in the Western Conference Finals, they beat the 62-win Spurs with David Robinson, who just won the MVP. And then in the finals, they didn't only beat, they swept the Shaq and Penny Magic, who just beat MJ. They were only a 47-win team, and on their way to the title, they beat 4 teams with at least 57 wins. That's never been done before. So when you just look at the burden that Hakeem had, how much was asked of him, his performance, what his teammates were like, the competition, these two finals runs are two of the most impressive finals runs ever. He was one of the best offensive players in the league. He was one of the best defensive players in the league. And that's why he has a top 5 peak ever. Now moving on, at number 4, I have Shaquille O'Neal, the most dominant big man of all time, the most dominant physically imposing player of all time. His peak was absurd. From 2000 to 2002, not only did the Lakers win a 3-peat, not only did he win an MVP, not only did he win 3 finals MVPs, but in the regular season, he averaged 29 points per game, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, half a steal, and 2.5 blocks per game on 58% shooting. He was a beast. And in the playoffs, he was even more dominant. He averaged 30 points per game, 15 rebounds per game, 3 assists, 3 stocks per game on 55% shooting against the best teams in the league. He was an absolute force. But where he truly took it to the next level and made him a top 4 player ever is that in those 3 finals appearances when he won 3 finals MVPs, he averaged 36 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and 3 blocks per game on 60% shooting. No one could stop him. And that's kind of the point with this exercise. Even though he had Kobe, even though he had a good team, he was so clearly the number 1 guy on these teams. When people played this team, they game planned for Shaq. He was a force, he was dominant, no one could stop him. You could double team him, you could triple team him. The impact and the gravity that he had was unmatched. There's a reason that these 3 finals are 3 of the highest scoring finals ever, up there with MJ, and he's the only player besides MJ to win 3 straight finals MVPs. This Shaq era from 2000 to 2002 is one of the most dominant runs of all time. He was clearly a top 4 player ever. Now I know this is gonna be controversial, but at number 3, I have Nikola Jokic. A lot of people are gonna be like, oh my god, how is he number 3? He's only won 1 title, he's overrated, he doesn't play great defense, he hasn't done it for long enough. That's not the point. Nikola Jokic is the best offensive player in NBA history. It's not debatable. Let me just read off these numbers. From 2023 to 2025 in the regular season, he has averaged 27 points per game, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block per game. But he's done this on 60% shooting, 40% from 3, a 63% effective field goal percentage, and he's 80% from the line. The efficiency and volume is absurd. We have never seen a 7-footer arguably be the best passer in the NBA and also be one of the best scorers and the most efficient scorer. It's different. And in the playoffs, he's been even more dominant. He has averaged 29 points per game, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, 1.5 steals, 1 block per game on 53% shooting, 57% effective field goal percentage, 38% from 3, 80% from the line. He's basically a 7-footer averaging 10 assists per game on 50, 40, 90 shooting. Just think about that. And that's kind of the point. It doesn't matter what all-star teammates he has, what all-NBA teammates he has, because he's never had one, or how much help, injuries, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. This man as an individual player can carry your team to heights that basically no other player in NBA history could besides maybe MJ or LeBron on their best. Maybe. There's literally nothing you can do to stop him. He's the most skilled big man ever, and that's why he's number 3. Now at number 2, I know that everyone's gonna agree 100%. It's Michael Jordan. In my opinion, his peak is from 1991 and 1993, his first 3-peat, and he was just elite. He averaged 31 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2.5 steals, 1 block per game on 52% shooting. He wasn't a great three-point shooter. He only shot 32%, but he was still super efficient. His effective field goal percentage was 53%. And during these 3 years, he won 2 MVPs. He won all 3 finals MVPs. He was first team all defense, first team all NBA. He got defensive player of the year votes. He was just an all-around elite player. And in the playoffs, he got even better. He averaged 34 points, 6.5 assists, 6.5 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block per game on 50% shooting, almost 40% from 3. I mean, he was just so elite, so dominant during this time frame. There's a reason they won 3 straight titles. But the reason I have him at number 2 and not number 1, despite the crazy scoring numbers, the 3 finals MVPs, the 2 MVPs, all the accolades, is that I just don't think that his individual impact was as big as LeBron. Even though he scored more than LeBron, he put up bigger scoring numbers. He probably put up the biggest volume scoring numbers in NBA history. His playmaking was not as good. He wasn't as good a rebounder. He wasn't as efficient of a scorer. At this time, he was still super athletic. He was getting to the rim a lot. He was dunking a lot. That's all true. But the fact that LeBron is bigger, he's stronger, he could get to the rim easier, that's what made him a more efficient scorer. Even though he wasn't as good from the mid-range, his shot wasn't as pretty, he was just more dynamic because, first of all, he was more of a threat to pass and he was more of a threat to do more things. And also, he was just so big and physically imposing that physically people could not stop him. So with that being the case, at number 1, I have LeBron James, specifically from 2016 to 2018, because this was the most refined that he ever was. He wasn't as physically imposing as he was in 2013, 2012, even 2010. He wasn't as physically dominant. He didn't have the athleticism as he did then. But at this time, he was still super athletic, but he was smarter, he was more mature, he was a better shooter, he was a better scorer, he understood the game better, and he still had 90 to 95% of the athleticism. He was an absolute beast. In the regular season from 2016 to 2018, he only averaged 26 points, but he put up 8 rebounds per game, 8 assists, 2 stocks per game on 54% shooting, 35% from 3. His effective field goal percentage was almost 58%. I mean, he was putting up big volume scoring numbers on some of the best efficiency ever. But the real reason why 2016 to 2018 LeBron James is the best player ever isn't because of the regular season. He didn't win an MVP. He didn't win a defensive player of the year. He didn't have all of those accolades. But in the playoffs, this man was an absolute monster. He averaged 31 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals and blocks per game combined on 54% shooting, 37% from 3, and almost a 59% effective field goal percentage. He was elite, efficient, high volume scorer. He was asked to do a ton. He was absurd. And of course, everyone only thinks about 2016 because he came back from 3-1. He beat the 73-win Warriors. He led the team in points, rebounds, steals, assists, and blocks in the finals, won finals MVP, everything. But you could argue that he was even better in 2017 and 2018. In the 2017 finals, he averaged 34 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists per game on 63% true shooting. And yes, they lost to the 2017 Warriors because they had Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, the best team ever. We all know that. But that 2017 Cavs team, not the Warriors team, that 2017 Cavs team had the best offense in playoff history. And then everyone knows about 2018 when he led a team with injured Kevin Love, Jeff Green, George Hill, just a random roster to the NBA Finals. I mean, that was the biggest carry job in NBA history. And in those finals where he got swept, he averaged 34 points, 10 assists, 8.5 rebounds per game on 62% true shooting. He dropped 51 points in game 1 against that Warriors team. Like, come on. And yes, you can nitpick. You could say that MJ's number 1. You could say that LeBron's number 1. That's perfectly fine. But the key differentiator is that as an overall player, total player, LeBron's better. He passes better. He's a better playmaker. He was as good a defender during this time frame. During these 3 playoff runs, he was an elite defender. He was just so physically imposing and skilled and a good playmaker that I have to have him at number 1. And considering everything that he had to deal with, Kyrie leaving the team, Kevin Love being hurt almost every single year, Kyrie's injury in 2015, all these different factors, and the fact that he was still able to produce, make it to the finals every year, and just put up these absurd numbers in the playoffs, he has to be number 1. So again, those are my top 10 best players in NBA history. It's not about the career accolades, the longevity, all that kind of stuff. This is at their peak, at their apex. Who are the 10 best players in NBA history? And that's my list. So who do you have? How would you rank your top 10 best players in NBA history?